All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, the conversation, as I said, is about the judiciary, and their focus this morning, the three arms of government, executive, legislative arm, and the judiciary, all, according to the democracy that we practice, has a role to play, very big role to play. The rule of law, which is the basis of any serious, democratically elected government is the one that many persons think is under pressure right now. And if there is any arm of government that should really hold people accountable, be just, in everything, it is the judiciary. And no wonder the symbol of justice, at least in Nigeria and maybe in all over the world, has to do with someone having a blindfold on the face, the scale, for weighing a measurement on one hand, the sword on another hand. And the blindfold means it doesn't matter. I'm not seeing, I'm not looking. Either you're a woman or a man, your political status, where you are from, you are rich or you are poor. Once I can see, that's the basis of the law. I have my skill to judge this matter and the sword, to adjudicate punishment or, correction, as the case may be. But it seems that is just a facade because we've been seeing different contradictory court proceedings, verdict, judgment, from coordinate court, and these are some of the issues. Adjudicating on something similar, and you'll be having different results using the same ground norm. The Federal Republic of Nigeria. You remember the issue that happened in Plateau State, where some House of Assembly members, they had their mandate taken off them using the ground norm, and the same thing was used to initially remove, the mandate of the governor, Caleb Mutfwang, but he had the opportunity to still go further because the Supreme Court can still entertain his case. So he got that and he got the mandate back to the Supreme Court. But those House of Assembly members, unfortunately, never got their mandate back because according to the law, their own case or case is terminated at the appeal court. That is one case. The same thing happened in Kano, in Rivers, all around, not just political case, but this case, it seems more about the political case. The case in Rivers is another issue where you get this court from these, and one court recognizing the Okujumbo led House of Assembly, another court recognizing the Martin Amaole House of Assembly. And the basis is still the Federal Republic Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that these is being used to give this different verdict. So these are some of the issues. Judiciary in focus. This morning we are being joined by a research and impact, professional who is going to be talking on to us on this matter. Somebody very big on having good governance and accountability. Samuel Atiku, he joins us, from the UK. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me on the program. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to think, or I want to believe, you are worried as well about what is being said or what has become of the judiciary, respectfully speaking now. And let me pay the contest to this. And this was a record yesterday at the 67th birthday book presentation of Leadership, Michael Zerkome, Professor Michael Zerkome. Many persons were there. Former president of the nation, Goodluck Jonathan, was there, and he spoke about politically motivated judgments. Let me tell you part of what he said. He said, considering the state of the country, especially the judgment in political cases, we are beginning to see that democracy in Nigeria is unstable. Like a cone turned upside down, if a cone is inverted, it cannot stand stably. Even the slightest disturbance will cause it to fall. And he stressed the need for legal professionals to resist political influence to ensure the survival of democracy in Nigeria. Now, he further said, for democracy to endure, those in the legal profession must not be swayed by political influence. This is the only way to stabilize the political process. He said, you cannot tell me. And then he gave a particular instance. By the way, we get there. But Samuel, talk to me. What do you say? What do you think is going on? Are you concerned about the workings of the judiciary, especially what former President Goodluck Jonathan has called politically motivated judgment?
I mean, the former president is 100% correct, what he has laid down. And if you also notice this year, the Nobel Prize for Economic Science was given to three people, Darren, Simon, and then James Robinson. And the work they did was about institution, and they went ahead and did a whole lot of work. And they connected strong institutions, including the judiciary, to economic prosperity. They say a country cannot prosper if its institutions are not strong. They complained about the influence of political parties, of political powers in shaping those institutions. And they discovered that for countries where the judiciary have been influenced by power blocks, where they are not independent, the institution is not strong, those countries tends to fall behind others. I think they end up by saying that to actually, regardless of what you are doing, if you don't have institution and you're coming up with different reforms, it's going to fall on deaf ears. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. They've done this across multiple countries over a long period of years. And yes, they came to a conclusion that, and then the academic body, of which we all know, they came to a conclusion that what they have done actually did deserve a Nobel Prize. And you know how prestigious that award is in terms of the academia. Now, to go deep into Nigeria, I would say there are three things, because again, we've done a lot of work in Nigeria, especially around the judiciary. There are three things that stand out right about the Nigerian judiciary. The first one is the structure. The second one is the institution that I talked about. And then the third one is the behavior. Now, if you look at the structure governing the judicial system in Nigeria, it is filled in a lot of issues. Yeah, they are not well funded, the salaries are there and all those things, so they are susceptible to influence. But when you look at the institution itself, you begin to ask yourself a big question. How are you regulating yourself? How are you ensuring that things are not, when things are going wrong, you call yourself to order? The unfortunate truth is that Nigeria has not done well at all. And the former president is 100% right. For instance, I think I did read out some bits of statistics the last time we talked about this. 62% of lawyers in Nigeria today, when they were surveyed, said they could not find a logical connection between judgments and proceedings of court, meaning that these judgments were controversial. That's massive. Now, for retired judges, 91% of them said that these judgments are actually controversial. Now, that's a big question to ask ourselves. How can 62% of learned, in quotes, people in this country say they cannot find any logic around how decisions are arrived at? And then 91% of judges they are retired, meaning that they have experience, they have everything. They say there's no connection, meaning that we're just doing things on impulse. That's how weak our institution is. Now, when you dump into corruption itself, 91% of lawyers, legal practitioners in this country say that, yeah, at some point in time, they've had or encountered corruption within the justice system. Now, 47% of the judges said, yes, they themselves, sitting on the bench, had been approached around these issues of corruption. That's how terrible it is in terms of weakness of this institution. Now, I, as a transparency accountability person, will tell you that the justice system, for instance, if you look at the budget of the Nigerian Judicial Council, you can't find it anywhere. You can't find it, find details. How much did they spend last year? You can't find it anywhere. So in terms of even the structure itself, it's calling a big question. Then we can go into the behavioral part. You see judges misbehaving, and then all those front and back and all those things. So yes, we have a big problem at hand, and I agree 100% with the former president.
Interesting. You have outlined three areas for us. You talked about the structures, institutions, and the behavior. You've tried to lay a base to why these three legs are having issues in Nigeria. Talking about institution and the behavioral pattern and the structure of such institution as well. Now, you talked about the NJC, on the matter being the big body regulating, prescribing, and administrating the affairs of judges in the country. When we say, they have been talking, occasionally they come with the big sticks against perceived, not perceived, erring judges. And then sometimes they want some, sometimes they talk tough. Now, when my Lord, Justice Kudura Kekere came on board, she has talked tough as well and say no to corruption. Many persons will say, same thing was said by my Lord retired Justice Kayode Aruwola. Same thing was said by Justice Tanko. Same thing was said by Walter Onoye, Justice, my Lord retired, and many of them like that, talking and occasionally coming out with the big sticks. Now, either at the magistrate level, the High Court level, Federal High Court, Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, any of those courts, there are persons there that are meant to dish out this justice, and they have been using the same grand norm to do some of this contradictory thing that we are having. The CJN, at every time, I just read out the numbers, at least the last 5, have been saying no to corruption, but we are still here. So in all of this, is it the structure? Because some persons have talked about even the appointment, the emergence of some of these judges at the state level. Yes, the recommendation will be made at the NJC. Now, how do they emerge? Even the CJN as well, the most senior person will emerge. But then, really, if we are to tackle it, is it the behavior? Is it the weak institution? Or, what we have on our hands? Where do you think we should pick it from?
Now, just for context, humans are, we always say humans can be shaped. Of course, the truth is that why do you have strong institution? When we talk about institution, we're talking about having a strong judiciary that is independent, meaning that there are safeguard principles around it.
Yeah.
Now, the challenge around the justice system in Nigeria is that when there are issues, you don't. In fact, I'm not the one saying it here. Gavel, Citizen Gavel, had gone into this, had actually gone and interviewed a lot of lawyers, and they asked a big question: if you encounter corruption and there's something to complain about, who do you complain to? Do you know the channel? They say, yes, the channel is there, but most times than none, it's cumbersome. And even when you go into those channels, the truth is that you never hear anything back. So essentially, the complaints channel where you could actually channel your complaint through, it's faulty. That's the big question. So when you look at the independence of a judiciary, when we talk about independence, you're talking about the safeguarding of the justice system. That's the first principle. Meaning that if there are issues, there should be a channel through which you will hear your views and you will receive feedback around what you have actually heard. The unfortunate truth is that that space is not strong in Nigeria. We need to fix that. And that's part of the institutional work that we need to do. The second thing is about the transparency itself. The oversight body needs to be transparent as best as possible, how it arrives at decision. For instance, if a judge is actually erring, you need to be transparent around what happens. It's not just about dropping down judgment. Oh, this person has been removed. It's not just about removing somebody. It's about understanding the process that led to his removal so that other people could see that, and then with that, you will strengthen it. Then the third issue is the legal framework itself. Most of the reforms around our legal system, and every lawyer will tell you, it's outdated. It's outdated. When you look at the transparency bit, the accountability bit of law, governing the justice system, most times than none, they are just edits even within the system itself. So they are outdated. We need to fix all those ones. Those are the work we need to do on the institutional part. And the Nigerian justice system itself, that means the judiciary, the NGC, will have to step in to fix that, because again, you don't want the executive interfering into the affairs of the justice system. Now, when it comes to the structure issues, that has to do with the work of the National Assembly, the State Assembly, and the executive itself, all of them together, because we have issues around systemic corruption. It is wrong for a governor or a political party to be hosting judges you're having parties together, and then you are going to the person on Monday to actually, there are ways you could influence some of those things in terms of how you pay them. Do they have to come and beg you before they get allocations and all those things? Those things needs to be handled out. We need to flesh all those things out. Yes, we know that if you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, Those structures are there, but again, it's subjected to a lot of manipulation. The second thing is about the resources we give the Nigerian justice system. They are not transparent around it, the NJC. I mean, you can go from 1999 to today and ask yourself a big question. What has the Nigerian Judicial Council done with this money? Where is it going and all those things? We have a lot of problems. If you go to budget, you go to any organization working around fiscal transparency in this country, they will tell you that one of the most opaque institutions is the Nigerian Judicial Council, the justice system. That's a structural issue. Then the third thing is about the political economic equity itself. You cannot be paying low judges this one and then this one is driving this big car. Well, how do you arrive at that? Where did you, so when you just see a judge all of a sudden having 20 houses? It's not possible. You can't live in Maitama as a judge earning certain salary. Everybody knows that. So what happens? There are question marks around all those issues. That's the second thing we need to fix as a country. Then the third one, I will go deep into that. That's the behavioral issue. There needs to be constant training, not just about this professional development thing. You need to learn about the ethics of your work continuously. I mean, we learn something about cognitive overload. When you look at a kid, when you take a small child to school, and then they keep singing this song over and over and over and over, all of a sudden, I remember when I was small, we sing 2 times 1 to 2 times 2 4 every day in the morning until we get used to understanding that type. That's what we call cognitive overload in behavioral insight. We need to continue to teach judges about the ethics of their work continuously, including lawyers themselves, so they understand these ethics, and those ethics should have their consequences, meaning that you have an handbook, Andy, that is continuously going. Even asking journalists should also be trained about this ethics. So when they identify their ethical, whether there are ethical issues, you quickly spotlight it. In every profession, whether you do CFA, whether you do lawyer, whether you do accounting, you can see the massive amount of ethics that you have to go through a detailed course around ethics, including doctors, in fact, even the police, they have ethical work going on there. So the judges themselves should continuously go through these ethics. Again, you ask big questions around what is going on in that space. Then the final thing I will talk about is the public perception. You cannot build a society where people perceive that the justice system is corrupt. That perception already breeds a lot of things. They need to do a lot of work in actually repairing that public perception about them. If I believe that if I take my case to court, this rich man will, of course, manipulate the system and push me down, definitely I will not go to the court. I will take laws in my hands. That is exactly the problem we have as a country. I will need to fix it.
Yeah, very importantly, the adjudication on the last general elections for many persons, still questionable. But then, just as we know in every spheres of life, when you go to a court, somebody will be pleased, another person may not be pleased, but this is the justice, but it's the way around it. And that's why I'm taking you up again on the issue of public perception. During the last election, and when the election came and gone, the proceedings, the flaws here and there, that accompanied it, winners thrown into the face of losers to say, go to court, go to court. How many persons are saying, is it because you are so sure that you've done everything rightly and you said, if I need justice, I should meet you in court, or you know that you have your influence in court? Because the jury is still in the open for many persons to say, yes, the constitutional thing to do, if you are not pleased about a particular situation, is to go to court. But when you see people, perceived persons, alleged, cases of impropriety, and people who have done some things they should not do, brazenly telling you to meet them in court, some persons will think, oh, wait a minute, is it that you know that you have those in court under your palm or over your palm, or you dictate it, or you are so sure that the court will do the right thing? And I'm talking to public perception. Talk to many young persons, they will tell you, oh, the court, after that particular judgment, and after everything was done, the political parties that took themselves to court, Millards, at that point said, we must restore the public, trust in the court, and the judges should not pan to emotions, because they feel the 2023 election was quite an emotional one. And, the lead at that particular judgment said, don't let anybody make you to pander to public sentiment and emotion. Now, Samuel, tell me, where do we place public emotion, the societal emotion, and the real perception of either the judiciary is doing well or not, especially when politicians who possibly are not winning or they've not won are wounding this same emotion to throw, this kind of toga on the judiciary to say, we know the winners are the ones who have the court. We know we can never get justice. And the real perception of the workings of the judiciary, if actually you understand my question.
I do, yeah. I think it's a very complex space to stay. I understand that, yeah, sometimes the burden of proof always lie. I would like all you have to prove yourself beyond reasonable doubt before a court. Yes. You have to prove yourself beyond reasonable doubt before the court can say, yeah, this is actually the right path. And sometimes something that is against the public, of course. The public may think this is the direction of travel, and then the justice system says this is actually the direction based on. But the key thing, it's about the clarity in how you arrive at that decision. The problem we've had in Nigeria is that 62% of lawyers are saying it is not clear, it's not logical. If you look at the US, for instance, there are a lot of issues around their justice system also. But you notice three things. You will hear the journalists, and then the people in the press says that you don't have evidence to suggest A happened, B happened, C happened. So I would say that it's a big work. Number one, I'm not saying I'm not advocate. I know there are issues in the Nigerian justice system, but we are not saying that because the public wants somebody to be taken off, then the justice system panders to that. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that, and then I think it's important also, sorry to say this, that journalists also need to be extremely careful. I know there's a social media influence. It's different, it's a different world that we're living into today, but we need to ensure that before we draw assertion or before we throw mud at a judge, we need to have enough evidence to say, yes, this judge is going it all wrong. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, once something is not coming at you, the next thing you do is to attack that person's character. And then, of course, you see some people also write things, of course, to draw people's attention. I think within the judicial, within the journalistic field itself, a lot of work needs to be done in that space. And that's why I keep reiterating, we need to learn more about the ethics governing the work of the justice system. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say, on the part of the institution itself, there needs to be a clarity. If A apple is logical, it's rational, you have to be rational. You cannot make decision on impulse or begin to bend rules under technicalities that you yourself created. I know in this country, where this whole issue will start was simple. When one of the judges, I don't want to mention the case, but you know what I'm talking about, because a judge did not come for a meeting, a whole case was dismissed on the basis of that. Those are very, very big issues that will raise perception question. We need to ensure that we don't allow those things to happen. We need to ensure that things are followed through. You don't begin to throw technicalities here and there to bend the laws to suit a purpose. And anybody can do that. Yeah, we know that. You need to be clear. Just for clarity, 62% of lawyers in this country, I'm not even saying the people that should know better are saying that, oh, they can't find connection between rulings and proceedings. That's a big question for us. Then the third thing I will say is, again, I will dwell down around that adherence to ethical standards. We have to ensure that we continuously push our judges. In fact, the process of selecting a judge, the character of those judges needs to be put to question. I know Citizen Gavel did look at some controversial cases, and they traced it back, and you will see that it's a pattern that those judges had followed through. So they committed this one, they did that because they become emboldened. So for instance, if a criminal walking, I free up a criminal, the chances I would do it next time is there, because and there's no ethical standard to call me to caution. So another person looking at me will say, oh, he did it, let me do it also. And then before you have it, the whole institution is doing it. We have to ensure that that ethical standard is clear for everybody to see. And when anybody breaches it, you don't say because it's my brother, is from this place, is from that place, we are together in this. No, you don't do that. You make sure that you follow through with your ethical standard and you hold it there. And that is how you could strengthen this. It's unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. Remember, the government is actually for the people, not the people for the government. People should always remember the justice system was designed specifically for Nigerians. Nigerians were not bent. Nigeria were not created for the justice system. So the justice system should align with the will and ensure that our society begins to move in the trajectory that we all want it to go, which is actually to have a fair. If you listen to our national anthem, our pledge, and all those things, it's there. Yeah. We want to be the country where everybody's proud of. We want to be a country that I can call my own, and that's where we want to live as a country.
All right, fair enough. Now, many persons will say, Samuel, that we have been looking at the bench, magistrates, High Court judges, Supreme Court judges, that you can't spare the bar as well on this matter. The lawyers themselves, irrespective of the years in practice, that they get to the peak of their career, the SAN level, that sometimes some of the cases, especially the big lawyers, quote and unquote, the big lawyers bring to court, they are funny, and you expect that they know the law enough not to bring some of these cases. By the way, maybe conventionally they might say no lawyer refuses a brief. By the way, it's okay, fair enough. But then that some of the things you bring, they bring as well. In fact, we've spoken to a lawyer on this program who said, for the lawyers that are throwing tantrums, or, I retrieve the word, that are throwing accusations at the bench at times and the workings of accusation, that yes, some of those corrupt judges are there and they try to do whatever they want to do, but the lawyers themselves, and he gave an example rather, to say, how about the filing of cases in court? That you as a young lawyer, or relatively, lawyer that practiced for 5-10 years, you file a case at the Supreme Court, and then for 3-4 years, your case might be there, and it's not being heard. And a big lawyer, so to say, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, that has been in the business for long, might file a case, and the next 1 month, 1 week, that same case might be heard. So the person that is calling for equity must come with a clean hand, as some of them as well. So where is the equity in that? If myself, Femi Ojo, as a lawyer, will go to a court on a very good case, file it there the same way, and I might not be called for the next 1 year, 6 months, and a big lawyer from a big firm files the same case at the court, and is heard within 1 week. What has happened? Is it connection? Are they having conversation with the lawyer, or with the judge, or to the court? Because when you file a case, it's expected you are not supposed to have any kind of contact with that judge. That they themselves, the lawyers, have a part to play, and they are part of this problem we are talking about. Do you agree?
100%. I mean, if you look at the work of Citizen Gavel, somebody even said, a lawyer said, of course, allegedly said, so that they don't hold me responsible, that he knows some lawyers, once they pick up a case, that case is won by them. They don't lose some cases, even when the trajectory of things seems that they will lose it. That is there. The second thing, just like you have said, in terms of the transparency around procedures, is all riddled in a lot of shady things. That's 2. Number 3, even the selection of a judge for a particular case. Sometimes there are some things that goes in before you select judge. Again, there's no clarity. So sometimes when you see a lawyer, you know the judge that will be selected already, especially when it comes to Supreme Court. So there are a lot of issues in there. Of course, if you read the work of Citizen Gavel, you see a lot of things that the lawyers were saying. And then if you pick up the academia also, you look at a lot of work that have been done in the academia, especially around legal fit itself. You will see a lot of all these things that you just highlighted. A lot of. So when we talk about corruption in the justice system, majority of the corruption that you are accusing the judge of, the most important perpetrator is also a lawyer, a big lawyer, sitting in between them. Because again, me, I'm not a lawyer. Again, people should remember that I'm not a lawyer. I don't know any judge. I've not seen any judge. I don't even know who a judge is. How a judge talk to a judge. You need a lawyer to be able to influence a judge. Most of them are friends, they are colleagues. They went to bar at the same time. They graduated, they did this. So it's just that another one took another trajectory. And they have a way, they have a melting point. So when they have that melting point, they have that rapport within themselves. They talk, just like you talk with your friends, they talk also somewhere, which there are questions around those ethics there. So yeah, 100% agree with you. And that's why we say that it's important. The only way you can break that code is to ensure that we adhere strictly to transparency. How do you select judge in Nigeria, for instance? Let's look at it, election tribunal. How do you allocate judges? What are the metrics for determining this person will handle this case? What are the antecedents of the person? We know people that have waked up one morning and issued unnecessary this thing, all of a sudden find themselves somewhere else again. So we know that there are issues in there, and it's not clear. You can't access, even at the Supreme Court, how you select judges. You have a lot of judges in the Supreme Court. We know I don't want to mention name again so that I'm not hold up, but we read that the selection is rigid in a lot of, it's not, I know procedure, before they used the hierarchical system to actually select judges, but we know that a whole lot of things happened in recent history, and there are question marks around that. So and then it trickles down up to the magistrate itself that is very close to us. So I agree 100% with what you've said, but the most important thing, the only way you can tackle this is to ensure that there's more transparency around those proceedings, there's transparency around the select judges, the histories of those judges and the antecedents of those judges that are there for everybody to see. If somebody have complained about a judge, it needs to be on their register, it needs to be on their toga. It's just like an office. It's just like you and me, when you're applying for a job, they ask for a reference, they ask for a character reference, they look at your antecedent, they look at your CV, what you've done in the past. They ask you questions. What have you done in the past? If you've committed crime, they will know that you've committed crime so date, and you will not be employed on the basis of that. So if a judge have actually held in ethical standard, let everybody see it clearly. Let it be marked up. Let's see what's going on so we can know whether there's a question mark around these things or not. But the unfortunate truth is that if you pick up a name of a judge in Nigeria, you go to Nigeria Judicial Council website, you try to actually research about these people, you won't find anything except you begin to pick up the laws and you begin to assemble it with yourself. And we all know we don't really have time for that as Nigerians. We focus on many other things that we need to focus on. We need to feed our family. The economy is hard enough for us. And unfortunately, to be sincere with you, the conversation we are having now, one way or the other, Nobel Prize winners have said, without a strong justice system, our work around the economy will fall on deaf ears. It will not work. That's what they've said. And people had accepted because they have a lot of empirical evidence to back up that assertion.
All right. Thank you, Samuel. We'll still be on the judiciary in focus, but we want to talk about what Governor Fubara said, the Thanksgiving to air out the new, judiciary year in River State. And he spoke at that Thanksgiving service. He spoke on a lot of things very strongly. And he even said, for judges, those of you paying or satisfied, dancing to the tune of your paymasters, God will judge you. You are supposed to be the God that we are seeing on earth. But it seems there is a paymaster that some of you are dancing to. And he spoke about that, where judges are seated, lawyers are seated. And that will be the next line of our conversation. Please hang in there. We take this quick break. The program will continue.